Ma'am, you also championed many causes for women, especially their role in peacekeeping, nation building, and the struggles, the disparities that they are currently going through, especially in the third world countries. And of course, in 2011, when you received the Nobel Prize, that of course was based on the work done on that platform as well. What do you think has been the unfinished agenda, plight of women in third world countries? A lot needs to be done?
Very much more needs to be done. As much progress as we have made, we still do not have full equality in many of the countries. Women do not have the opportunity to compete. Women do not have equal leadership roles throughout society, whether you're dealing with the public sector or the private sector. And that's not just in Africa, that's a situation that pertains all over the world. In fact, I think Africa may have made some progress, like India has made so much progress in ensuring women full participation in all aspects of life. But we've got still a long way to go. In parliaments and legislatures, a few countries like Rwanda has been exceptional, 54%, perhaps the highest worldwide. That's exceptional. But in most of our countries, it averages around 25%. And so we must strive for that. We must also make sure that the girl child gets better education. In some of our countries in Africa, the girl child marries too early, does not have the opportunity equal to the boy child to access education and knowledge. And those are some of the shortcomings that we must continue to strive for. Progress has been made, but we cannot stop. We must keep pushing until more progress is made, until equality is total.
All right. Having said that, what are your thoughts on the fact, the strong emergence of women world leaders, their role in international politics? I mean, they're rising and rising. And how do you think they are actually influencing global politics in a positive way, the emergence of women leaders across the globe?
More women are educated. More women are technocrats today. More women are pursuing leadership role at all levels. Women have found their voices. They're standing up and taking positions. And a changing society also makes it possible for a woman to achieve the highest level and still remain a mother and still remain a family person. And so today, that's why you see all over the world women are vying for leadership. And also we have these towering figures of history that women see and they emulate them. You know, whether you're dealing with Indira Gandhi of the past, or whether you're dealing with an Angela Merkel of today, these are the towering figures that young girls see, and they emulate them. They see them as role models. They want to be like them, and so it's blossoming all over. So you're going to see women leadership is just going to expand exponentially, I think.
And as this expands exponentially, as you've put it, Her Excellency, what do you think about the India story? We've had the woman Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi, who is, of course, who happens to be your ideal also. We've had the first woman president. Currently our ruling alliance head happens to be woman, Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, and of course the speaker, Ms. Meera Kumar. So when we talk about women in India...
India is an example. There's no question about it. And it goes back into history. It's not something that's current like in many of our countries today. And so they have been the ones that have blazed the path. They have set the standards, you know. They have led the way. And so it continues today. As you mentioned, the Speaker of the Parliament, we saw her, for somebody to manage an Indian Parliament, 500-something persons, you know, is something extraordinary. Yes. And so I met so many women ministers today, all just...
Our parliament has a very strong presence of
women. Just strong figures. I was privileged to meet the chairman of the ruling party, Sonia Gandhi herself, a towering figure and a figure that has great influence in this society. So I go back being able to point to these women. We have our strong women in Liberia. There's strong women all over Africa, but we can use these examples. They can encourage and motivate our women, our young girls, even more.
So India's story is really inspiring and encouraging.
India's story is inspiring worldwide.
Let's talk a bit about your stint with United Nations and the work that you've done, your papers that you've produced on sustainable development, this entire debate between developing and developed nations. And very briefly, if you could also talk about the unfinished agenda, the challenges for sustainable development. How do you look at that?
Well, we still do not have a situation in where particularly the less developed or the developing countries are able to have an economy that is competitive, one in which their natural resources have an addition where they have value added to enable them to create jobs. That's part of what Africa is now seeking in its new development agenda. It will take a lot in developing our infrastructure to be able to do that. Today, we still remain in Africa, particularly, we're the poorest of the poor. But it's changing. It's changing because of the major economic reforms that are being undertaken, because African countries are embracing democracy, and because participation in society by all, whether you're dealing with civil society or the private sector, that a collective effort to try to improve development is there. But we still have a long way to go. Trade, much of our countries still depend upon official development assistance. That says that we haven't reached the level of international equity, whereby our trading systems and our natural resources can be used for our own benefits. Those are the kinds of things that we must continue to work on. And I believe that the commitment of all countries for this in this new global agenda will seek this kind of equity for all nations.
Finally, when you look back at your life today and when you reflect about the 4 decades of very distinguished political and professional career you've had, exiles and imprisonment, and of course you were house arrest for a brief period, and then getting back to state politics, then rise to presidency, all of that. And today when you're here in India, you received this award. You're already the recipient of Nobel Peace Prize. What is the takeaway from your life? How would you sum it up?
I think it's been a wonderful life of courage, determination, and ultimate success. And I just hope that every young girl in Liberia and Africa and the world will see this along with all the other figures that we've just talked about. We see this and say, yes, I can do it. I can be what I want to be. That's what I hope my life will represent to all the young ladies over the world, that anything is possible if you're willing to work for it.
Okay, especially coming together of the world's largest democracy and the smallest democracy in that context.
India is an emerging superpower. India today has all that it takes to be a superpower, whether you're dealing with the grassroots things like rural agriculture, or whether you're dealing with the high scientific things, like a nuclear power plant. India has traversed all of that. Liberia is still small. We have things to offer too. We have our rich experience of being able to come out of conflict and to move towards success. I believe that what we stand for in Africa also compares with what India stands for when it comes to democracy, promotion of human rights, the basic freedoms that are allowed. I hope that we can use the Indian example of big superpower reaching down to a small power, and together we can work toward making our world a safer place for all mankind.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for talking to DD.